Hey, we're back. We're live.
Good morning, James.
Good morning. How are
Good.
you?
Much
You're
better
much
now.
better because you're drinking Reboot. That's a different
Yeah.
color. What flavor's that?
Lemongrass.
Lemongrass.
Lemongrass and kefir lime and ginger and all kind of goodies.
Nice,
Yep.
nice. Sounds delicious.
Cool.
So,
Well,
um, so here we are. We're back again live. Table for 7 billion. We may have to pull up a few extra chairs.
like at Cesar, remember at Cesar when we used to put like 13 people on 2 tables? That was fun, right?
I had a group of women in one night. We had 50 people down the whole center. We had almost every table just
Oh, yeah.
lined up down
Oh,
the
yeah,
center of
yeah,
the
yeah.
bar. It was crazy, including Marcia from Massey's. She was sort of the
Oh, my God, yeah.
ringleader of that. They
So
were
who,
hilarious.
for those who don't know Cesar, which they're starting to know, we talk about it a lot. But yeah, with you, it's one of our favorite places, right?
Yeah,
I started to, I built it, with a bunch of people. So it's for me, it's really I mean, I've been there since the inspection, but we used to have so many people that sometimes we had to pack them on tables, right? That's why people have a hard time understanding. But it's crazy stuff. This place got crazy, very busy. Anyway.
well, and all the tables are relatively small. They're about
Yeah,
two
right.
feet
Yeah,
square.
it's like this big.
So they're perfect for two people, but we often sit four around it, and then of course we can shove tables together for bigger groups. But sometimes we get a lot of people around a space not really intended for that many people, and but they always have fun. Because the food is the kind of food that you want to share. So people order a bunch of tapas, they
That's the
share
idea.
everything.
That is the idea.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's fun. It's very fun.
You
So Olive and I together combined have something like, what do we have? Something like 150 years experience in restaurants. so, something like that. I may be off by a few
I think you're
years,
a little bit under, but yeah, I think.
but and so we think about restaurants a lot, and I'm still in the business. Olive is working with chefs and as teachers in the restaurant, so restaurants are still very prevalent in your mind, and you go to restaurants, and so
Yeah,
we think,
I go to restaurants sometimes. I mean, it's difficult, it's different right now. It's not as
yeah, it's
yeah,
not like it used to be.
no.
It's
But
also
anyway,
expensive. I mean, to go out to nice places is expensive, so to do it frequently is it gets to
it's
be
crazy.
it's hard to do. So we don't go out as much as we used to,
Right.
partly because of COVID, but partly because it's just so much money. But we still like to go out, and I like to be in the
Yeah,
restaurant. I love to feed people. I love to
I
welcome
love to.
people in. I love to feed people to other people, and
Even if they don't know each other, right? I mean,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
So somebody asked me once, "Do you like babies?" I said yes, with garlic and
yes,
rosemary. No, no, I'm
yes,
kidding. I'm kidding. I love babies. Anyway, um, so we think about restaurants a lot, and we were talking about working for people and restaurant bosses. And this is going to become a recurring theme in the show as we bring chefs on the show to talk about what it means to be the boss in the restaurant, how someone becomes the boss
yeah,
in a restaurant, and more importantly, how bosses should work and what it's
right.
like to work. And there are good bosses and bad bosses. Both of us have been bosses. Of course,
And we're
we've only
talking we're talking specifically in a restaurant because this is very
yeah,
specific to that. It's specific to that industry.
yeah. And there are different levels of boss too. I mean, there's the owner who's the ultimate boss, assuming there's one owner. Sometimes there's a
Right.
bunch of owners. And then there's usually a general manager who's the person who really runs the restaurant on a day-to-day basis, manages the staff, schedules the staff, all that kind of stuff. So, and then there's even strata below that. I mean, there's a bar manager sometimes.
Well, so
Sometimes
okay,
there's
before you go into all these details, you want to see. It depends on the sizes of the restaurant.
right.
If it's a small restaurant, like let's take Cesar for example. Not that we like Cesar because it's a perfect size. It's 50 people. It's a really good, in my opinion. I've done a lot of restaurant consulting. It's a great size to make money. It's
Yeah.
the perfect size to make money. It's not too big. You can always. So the idea about looking at that is you have to be able to look at the whole restaurant and see what's happening from any spot of the place. That's a good place.
Hmm.
If you have several rooms, this becomes more difficult. So the more rooms you have, the more floors you have, the more staff you need to have on hand, and you don't know how many people are coming. If you're always busy, then it's not a problem. But if it's regular restaurant what you can't really control, then you always overstaffed. So the more room you have in your restaurant, a lot of time you end up with overstaffing, right? Because
Right.
that's
Right.
how it does. And if a restaurant is very busy and it has high volume, you're going to see all these managers, sous chef, and stuff. But if it's not busy or if it's very small, you're not going to see that. You're going to see overworked people that do three jobs, right?
Right. And like I said, Cesar is relatively small, so when our manager's there, he can oversee everything and do. But it's also small enough and informal enough that,
Right.
for example, when I'm the closing bartender and everyone else is gone, I'm the boss. So and there's a kind of hierarchy. When the manager's not there, then someone else is in charge, and it's not real formal. It's not
Yeah,
like,
no,
okay,
no.
you're the
These are-
boss now, tell me
the-
what to do. The great the great thing
sorry.
about Cesar is that we all know our jobs and we just do our jobs.
Yeah,
So
but
we
James,
don't need someone telling us
if you're the
next.
last, if you're the last person to leave, you talk to yourself. How do you do that? You go to the mirror and say, "Hey,
I do.
I
And I
want you to do
really
that."
boss myself around too.
You
I
have
don't
this
put
like,
up with I don't put up with any nonsense from myself.
oh man.
One night I was the boss and I caught myself drinking and I really gave myself a talking to.
I thought you were going to say I gave myself a big thing of ice. I was missing that.
Yeah. So, but
So
it's
okay,
amazing when people get in a position of authority. Sometimes they get a little crazy.
a little crazy.
Yeah, sometimes a lot crazy. That
No,
and
sometimes
that
yeah,
that can range from just being cruel to being like a micromanager, where you walk around and I love the kind of bosses that want to point out what I need to do right at the point where I'm going to do it.
right. But
Don't
it's a question. There's a many point to that. It's a question of experience. If the boss is an experienced restaurateur, usually what he's going to ask is always possible. It's always within the realm of the work in the restaurant.
right.
Some people have no clue, like zero clue, and you can see really fast when you can see how they talk to the busboy or the dishwasher and what they ask them to do. Like the dishwasher is the one who does everything, right?
Yeah,
And then
right.
the other people they don't like the boss that don't know anything or is very insecure is going to ask more work from the dishwasher that he thinks is not as important because you can replace them easy.
Right.
Then he's going to ask the waiter. He's going to take care of his waiters and this. I'm like, no. Everybody works. Everybody makes money. Everybody works. That's it.
Well, and it depends on if the owner is a chef or if
Yeah.
the owner is simply a restaurateur,
Right.
which are two different things.
Right.
Sometimes a chef is a restaurateur,
Yeah.
usually not. Usually the chef is the chef and
Right.
the owner is somebody that owns restaurants.
Right.
And if you're good at it, it can be a really great
Right. It's fun.
business. But so
So
many people start restaurants that don't know what they're doing or don't fully know what they're doing.
because they are stuck with the romantic idea.
Right.
I know so many people. I've known personally people that have opened restaurants thinking they're just going to sit with their friends and have drinks, right?
Right. Be a
And,
big shot.
and it's true. They have drinks, but that's it. That's the only thing they were planning. They are not going to sit down with their friends. They're going to sit down one time, and then they're going to see all catastrophes happening around them.
Right.
No more sitting down. You don't sit down in a restaurant when you are working on a shift, right?
Right.
Even some people do that.
And to
You don't.
me, the fun of it, I mean, if I owned Cesar, the fun of being there would be to constantly be in motion and be talking to people all over the restaurant,
Right.
helping out where help was needed. Um, like I said before, we have a good experienced crew, so people know their job. So you don't need a boss to be telling you what to do. You just need a boss to be there to help out wherever help is needed. You know,
Yeah,
if
to
it
help out. So the boss is part of the staff. Just to
right,
understand, the staff,
right,
the boss, if he works, he takes a shift. A shift means he takes a whole station, and he
yeah,
sticks to it. It's not, or he could be a floater. So
yeah,
we talked about floating last week, but that's what a good boss will do. Otherwise, you can see if the restaurant is doing well enough, then the boss usually a lot of time you can see well enough. I'm sorry, organized enough. The boss sometimes you're gonna see sitting down with his friends. I've seen that.
yeah,
Um, it's fine, as long as the restaurant is well organized and the boss is doing his job. And a lot of time when you see bosses like that, usually those bosses are have been here since like early in the morning, set up the whole thing,
right.
and you see them relaxing. It's because they have already done the shift, right? So
I
it's
mean,
not always
I did work for a guy once very early in my career when I was tending bar back in Nebraska, and this guy it was a prime rib restaurant,
right.
and the guy that owned it, definitely that was his thing. He
Yeah,
liked to come in,
yeah, right.
hang out at the bar with all the regulars, drink, talk to people, and he would wander around. He would talk to guests. And in a way, it was good because he was a presence there. People knew him. He was
Right.
kind of a
He's the host.
personality.
He's
He
the
didn't
host.
really do anything. He didn't bust tables. He didn't make drinks. He didn't do much of anything. He would just sort of float around and be a host and a social butterfly.
Right,
And no one minded him, but we also didn't look to him for help either. I mean, if
right.
I used to tend bar in this little cocktail lounge across the street from the main restaurant, and he would come in and hang out sometimes, and he was no help at all. But I didn't care. He was a nice guy, and he'd sit there. He'd
Yeah, right.
get kind of drunk. His wife would get really drunk, um,
Oh
and
yeah. So that's what, James, that would be a good topic also. What do you do when because we've had that so many times. I've
yeah,
had that personally. When the wife of the boss gets drunk, what do you do? How do you
yeah,
handle that?
yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good point to develop. Oh my God. I've had so much of that
Yeah.
in LA specifically. Yeah.
So,
So okay, so
but
how do
then
you do
then there are other bosses like Cameron when he works at Cesar,
he's really cool. Yeah.
he'll sort of be the host because lately it's been very, very busy. So he'll just work the door and he'll be at the door and he'll greet people, he'll check vaccinations, he'll keep a list of who's waiting, he'll keep an eye on how much time, and he'll constantly walk around and look at tables to see when he's going to be able to seat people. So
Yeah.
that's what he does when he works.
Cameron is great. He's a great. He's very soft and gentle and really nice.
Yeah. But
But so
he can also jump behind the bar and make drinks. He
so
can
James, what is the parameter for a good boss? I mean, how do you make a difference between a good boss and a bad boss in a restaurant? We're talking restaurant only, because that's all we
well,
know.
I think one thing that people lose sight of, and I think a good boss has to be respectful to the people that work for them. I
Right.
think,
So then you can. So,
you don't want to treat people like cattle. You don't want to treat them like they're dispensable, like they're just, do what I say or you're out.
unless you
I mean,
really,
at the same time, you have to expect people to be professional and do their
yeah.
job
So what?
and all
Which,
that.
yeah.
But assuming they are, you need to treat them
Assuming
with
they are.
respect.
Right. So a boss can be from the restaurant business, from its own business. Sometimes
Uh
it's
huh.
even someone from that restaurant, which
Uh
makes it
huh.
even better because he knows the restaurant. A good boss, in my opinion, is someone who has to actually at least has been a dishwasher or a busboy. You have to have that happen to you because otherwise you don't understand how much you can ask the people. I always tell, when I used to do audit or um, consulting for restaurant, I say you need to learn from the busboy and the dishwashers first. When you come to a place, look
Hmm.
what's happening with them. They know the restaurant. They know where everything is. This is the first people to look for, right?
Yeah.
So when you're a new waiter, uh, the busboys and the dishwasher can teach you a lot. Okay, the waiters are going to teach you some stuff to make money and to do other stuff. But if you watch those busboys, you can see where everything is going. This is where you need to know. And when you work in the kitchen, you need to understand what the dishwasher is doing, because the dishwasher is basically he knows where everything is in the kitchen and how the cycle goes. There's a system in restaurant. It's always the same, pretty much. things, ticket come, food is gets put out, the pans, pots get thrown in the dish has to get those pots right away for
Hmm.
the chef. There's a cycle, right?
Right.
So when you work in a kitchen, you need to pay attention to your dishwasher to understand how they work. And then when you are in the front, you need to pay attention to your busboy. And then you learn a lot from that. And then you can,
Yeah. The other thing that bosses can sometimes do is get in the way. Uh, I've had bosses that, you're you're tending bar,
oh,
and suddenly
oh my
they
God.
want to come back and make drinks for somebody, and they want to they want to show off, and so they start doing something behind the bar. Meanwhile, you've got orders piling up.
Hi,
You
Lisa.
are, hey Lisa,
Great.
and you need to work. You need to be at your station, and you need to be cranking out drinks. And here's the boss. They're throwing stuff around, making a mess, and it's like, oh
Right.
my God, can you
Making
just
a
get out
mess.
of my way?
And then he leaves. And then,
And then he leaves. It's a mess. You got to clean up before you can start making drinks
I
again. And
mean, oh, man. Oh, ah, 40. Talking about,
hey, Frode.
talking about.
I mean,
So
Richard used to do that sometimes. He would just suddenly he'd be in your
Richard
way, and
used
he'd
to
be
do that
making drinks.
all the time,
Yeah,
but it was fun doing it.
yeah.
Richard has a special thing. He
Well, and
was,
he knew if you were super busy,
uh,
he knew not to get in your way. But it just he was funny.
Richard is the ex-owner of Cesar. So
Yeah,
people that don't know,
yeah.
Richard was the founder, and he worked until what? When did he die? When did he pass? Like a year, 1 year?
He passed away just before the COVID year,
July.
so he just before Christmas in 2019.
Okay, all right.
And he hadn't really been working there much before that, because he had gone down to he and his wife
Oh,
went
right, right,
went
right.
down to San Diego to
I
open a
remember.
Cesar down there.
I remember that. Okay, cool.
Somebody made them an offer they couldn't refuse down there, and so they went down and did that. And it was, it was nice. It was fun for them. I think they it was tough going, because the people down there didn't necessarily get what they were doing always, but
Yeah.
but
But anyway, so Richard was a good boss. Good boss. He was a little bit in the middle of the, like you said, he was in the middle a lot, but he was so nice. It's true that, and that's a good point. If you can't, if you're making a mess, if you're nice, it's much easier than if you're making a mess and you're an asshole.
yeah,
That's really difficult. I've
yeah.
I've I've had bosses like that where they do the crappiest stuff. They make a mess and then they scream at you, or they show you their disapproval, and they're really in the way. It's really, that's frustrating.
Well, and the other thing about Richard was that he could do any job in the restaurant, and he was willing to do anything. I mean, he wasn't above, you know, cleaning the bathrooms,
Right.
or, and he was the one that we called when something broke. If something was broken in the bathroom, or if a sink was leaking, he'd be there, and he'd be taking it apart and fixing it. He would
That's
get dirty.
exactly, I've been a boss for many restaurants, and I'm always available to do whatever. And usually a good, and when I'm not that I'm saying I'm a good boss. I mean, I'm a pretty good boss, I guess. But I would do everything. So if someone breaks down, I'll go and get it right away, because first of all, it's faster. And if I take a staff away from his job, something else is going to happen. Like
Right.
the chain is broken. And at this point, I remember my restaurant in Paris, we had, on the weekend, it was insanely busy. Frode was the chef. We'd have about 400 to 500 people a day on the weekend. It was insane. And everything was like this, click, click, click. It was amazing. So I had to leave that chain in command. And then I was trying to get to the bartenders, because the bartenders were really busy. Food was pretty amazing. He would put his food, man, just by, I don't know, like he was one and two other people. I don't know how he did this. Oh, I know how he did it. He was drunk.
That always helps. That
But
always helps.
I have never seen someone like Fode works like this as a drunk. I've never seen it. And plus, he stayed with me for many years. You know that. I mean,
Uh-huh.
he's never missed a day. I mean, it's just amazing. How funny you remember that. A nice
Yeah.
funny.
And the thing about a restaurant, and we're talking about a busy restaurant, because if you're not busy, you're
Right.
probably
Yeah.
not going to be in business very long. But if
Yeah.
you're busy all the time, and something breaks or somebody gets sick or something happens, you can't say, well, we'll deal with this next week. I mean, it has to be now. You have to be willing to jump in. You
and
need to do what needs to be done.
also it's like something break. You're talking about a glass breaking or something being thrown on the floor. I'm talking a machine stop down breaking.
Right.
The dishwasher stop working. What do you do now?
Right.
Like for example, I was in Paris in a small restaurant, and my dishwasher just went out. And we didn't have those things today where here I have a service called autoclore. That's really cool.
Right.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's a little more expensive, but if something goes wrong, you just pick up the phone. Literally, they come, they fix it, done. Like that's it. You have nothing to worry about. But in
Well,
the old days,
and that's who
you,
they work with restaurants, so they know if your machine is not working, they know that you need them now.
like right now, right?
You need to come now and fix it.
So in Paris, that was my own machine, stupidly, and it broke in a small restaurant I had. And then the dishwasher had a. So my restaurant was small, and the kitchen was very small. I don't know, 10 meters by 10 meters by 12
Hmm.
meters. So it's very small, right? It's what is that, 4, 5, whatever. And my dishwasher had a huge pot, and he would put all the dishes in there, right? Because there was no dishes in the middle of the kitchen. So the kitchen is here, right? And he's right here. And he's watching in the. It was. What do you do? What do you do? Like, how do you fix that? Like, I mean, like,
Yeah.
you have to keep going. The show must go on. The restaurant, people don't know what goes in the back. They have no whenever the doors open and the waiter come with the food, a whole story has happened before.
Right.
What you
Right.
see is just
Well, and we've had nights where suddenly the power in the whole neighborhood went out.
oh yeah.
And so we had to break out candles. We had to do everything by hand, and at some point you can't stay open if there's no power because it becomes unsafe in the kitchen. Um, but
We've done it
you,
at Cesar several times. The
yeah,
power went out, and Richard went in the back, pick up some candles, and we kept going.
yeah,
It
and
happens to me. It happens to me at Kitchen on Fire. I had a couple of times the power went down. I had light from the street, so plenty because my there's plenty of light on Berkeley on Shattuck,
right,
and then we put a bunch of candles, and it was light enough so we could finish the class because it was gas, right? Gas.
yeah, we have gas stoves, so you can keep cooking.
Yeah, that was fun.
I mean, it
But
becomes a little dangerous in the kitchen if they can't see, but we tried to, get enough torches in there and candles and whatever so that they could see what they were doing. And
I really
and
don't.
the biggest thing is credit cards. Everything's so electronic these days
Oh yeah, right.
that what we had to do was get out the old fashioned little sliding thing that made the imprint of the credit card, and you just had to get all their information,
You don't even know
and
what
then
they.
you'd call it in later. I mean, you just had to hope that their cards
Oh,
were
man.
good.
No,
But
for me,
cards so seldom get declined anymore that it's not a big issue.
oh yeah,
But it,
right. We had to have an authorization at the time, right? We need to call, get an authorization. That was oh my god,
yeah.
that was the old days, man. Remember that? We had to
Now you
call the
just
credit
stick it
card.
in, you put it in the information. It
Oh,
does it all electronically. But when there's no power, you can't do that. Or sometimes the internet has gone out, so you can't do that because
yeah.
it's all via internet
I
to do
remember
the
when
authorizations.
you're talking about how dangerous it can be in the kitchen. I don't think chef cares about danger. I don't think nobody cares, right? Like, they have knives and fire like for hours and hours at a time. I think the danger is kind of the least of their problem, right?
Yeah, and actually the stove gives off a lot of light because you've got it's fire. So
And heat.
um, yeah, it's crazy when stuff like that happens, and it's maddening because it just makes your job so much harder. But in a way, it's kind of exhilarating when something like that happens. You really kick into another gear, and you just say, "Okay,
Right.
we got to deal with this." And
Oh
um,
man, it's crazy. It's almost like a trance hypnotic state.
yeah,
You're like so into your world of that has to happen, and I've seen like chefs so focused on what they were doing, like the time goes and everything is gone. It's pretty crazy.
Well, and the interesting thing that when something like that happens, like when the power goes out, it really brings the diners together. Suddenly you notice all the tables are talking to each other, they're sharing light sources. And nowadays everybody's got
Yeah,
a smartphone, so they're all like turning on their flashlights and reading their menus and looking at their but it really everybody's suddenly talking to each other and it
I
becomes like a
know. That's
party.
really cool.
It
Every
really
time there's
becomes
a
a party.
yeah. So every time there's a problem or some mini catastrophe, it brings people together, right? It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, assuming it's not a catastrophic
No,
event
no,
like a
right,
big
right.
fire or
No,
something, but
that's why I say a small catastrophe,
yeah,
like
yeah.
a restaurant catastrophe. There's many, by the way, and you guys don't. I think you have no idea how what goes out in the kitchen. It's not bad. It's just like it's not what you imagine.
Even little things like if the glass washing machine behind the bar were to suddenly break.
I
I mean,
mean,
that's
yeah.
huge because we go
Oh my
through
god.
so many glass. We're constantly putting racks in and out of there.
Right.
And
So I don't know.
if it suddenly didn't work, it would be in a busy night, it would be a matter of 20 minutes or so
Yeah.
before we'd be out of glasses.
So people understand also. I don't know if people get it, but um, washing machine in a restaurant are very different than the thing you have at home, and the cycles are really fast. So the
Yeah.
cycle in a bar is what, a minute and a half?
Yeah, it's very high heat, high pressure.
But what's the time? 1 minute? Minute?
Probably. Yeah, like a
I know
minute, minute and a half.
in the
Under 2
kitchen,
minutes for sure.
is about 3.5 minutes. So you see
Yeah,
how fast that goes, right? So if you have a dishwasher issue, you have a big problem. Like it's
yeah.
not just like, and you can see the people running around with like, and how do you clean those glasses? And especially today, I mean, you can't.
In the old days,
And that's why you have also, I mean, in the old days, exactly, we used to have plastic glasses, remember?
well, but also when I first started tending bar, you had these sinks behind the bar.
Oh yeah, right,
You
right.
had a triple sink,
Oh
and
my
you
God.
had little stoppers in each sink with brushes on them. So you would fill them, and you had different chemicals that
Oh my God.
clean. So you'd take the first one, you'd put the glass in, you'd put it, and this thing came up, and it had brushes
I
on it. So
know.
you'd stick the
Bzzz.
glass over it, and you'd go,
But you,
and then you dip it in the next one, and then the final one was like a rinse, and then
a
you set it on the
sanitizer,
rack to dry. So
but
you could do that really quickly. But we also didn't have fancy glasses. We didn't. It was mostly rocks glasses
right.
and beer glasses because it was a very old timey bar. So almost everything was served in a rocks glass, even Manhattans,
That
martinis.
that's how I started to work. My first bar job at La Toc in LA when I was 20. It was those thing you have to go
Yeah. I
and
mean, we didn't have a glass. We didn't have a machine to wash the
right.
glassware.
No, machine never existed. And
And we
then
didn't have that many glasses because you just constantly were,
right,
you know, in
right.
fact, when you'd clear the bar, somebody'd be done, you'd take their glasses and you'd just go
Yeah,
and put them on the rack, and you'd always have a bunch of glasses there
I've broken
drying.
I've broken so many glasses like this because then you
Well,
have to go and
those glasses we used to have, I wish I had one here. I have one upstairs, but those old glasses, they were kind of faceted and they were heavy and they were
oh yeah,
thick. I mean, you'd really have to
yeah,
throw those on the ground to break them. They were hard to break. Whereas a lot of glasses today, like our wine
I
glasses, are
know,
easy
right?
to break. The martini
Well,
glasses are easy to break.
when
But
I was working at La Toc, my first bar, my God, it was a mess because I was not cleaning fast enough. I was new. I didn't, and there was all these wine glasses, tons. And then I always ended, and Richard was getting pissed off every time because I would leave all the glasses because it takes so long to do. And that was my biggest thing, man. And then I was able to have the dishwasher do it after when I left. I would pay him, but I didn't care. It doesn't matter. Like, I would pay him out of my money or something. I don't care. Like, I don't care. It's an hour and a half of washing glasses. I don't want to do that. It's stupid. Like,
and of course, when I first started tending bar, I don't think anybody paid by credit card. It was all cash.
yeah.
So you
Right.
didn't have to worry about authorization. You didn't have to be calling in numbers. I'm guessing they must have accepted credit cards in the restaurant, but I don't recall
It's
doing
that
credit
yeah,
cards.
it's the thing where you have to call. You have to call it every authorization.
Yeah,
There
but
was
I don't think
someone.
in the cocktail lounge. I don't even think we
Oh,
had that. I think it was just all
no.
cash. I mean, people would just, and in those days, they would throw money on the bar. you would take it, you'd make
Oh
their change,
yeah.
you'd put it back on the bar, and they'd always just leave their money
Oh,
there
I
until they were
know.
all
That's
done,
crazy.
because they'd get another drink, and
I
you'd
know.
just like take the money out,
I've
make the
seen
change.
I've seen that. People would leave their money on the bar the whole
And the
night,
funny
right?
thing is, because of that, I knew the price of all the drinks. Like if somebody ordered a Manhattan, I knew exactly what to charge for it. Whereas nowadays, people will say to me, well, how much is a such and such? I'm like, well, geez, I don't know, and I have to look because I don't I don't punch in the price when I just hit.
Crazy.
I mean, pretty much all our cocktails are the same price now, so it's pretty easy. But I don't know the prices of things because we
Cool.
don't have to know.
Anyway, so James, we'll go back to the boss thing. I want to, because this is a fun discussion. And what we'll do is we told you already, we've planned to invite guests again. We're not quite ready yet because I have to figure out a couple of things. But once we have, this is going to be always a recurring question, like what type of boss.
Yeah,
We're not gonna name those people. It's not like a hunting. How do you say that? Like a witch hunting.
a witch
But
hunt. Yeah, we'll only name the
but
bad ones.
right, but we will ask people what do they feel about a good boss, because we have so many stories in the restaurant business. I mean, when we talk to our friends, bartenders, chefs, cooks, we hear so many stories. And James, you mentioned something that was fun at the beginning of the before we started the show. How people that wants to be helpful.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
let's talk about
Well, there
that.
was a whole article online about I think it was the 7 things you shouldn't do in a restaurant that are rude, and uh, one of them is when the server's bringing out dishes or drinks.
Oh, Trey. I think the
Well,
drinks are
especially
better.
it talked about a server with a tray of plates, and we don't do that at Cesar, but a lot of restaurants do. They have it, if a big table and you got a lot of plates, and the people that think they're being helpful, so they try to reach out and help take the plates off the tray. No, you don't want to do that. That's a recipe, because a lot of times the server's balancing that tray, and they take things off in a way so that they can maintain the balance of what's. So suddenly you pull something off of this side, the whole tray is going to go over. Or in the case of Cesar, we carry the plates out, and you go to put a plate down and somebody wants to grab it. Well, maybe it's really hot, maybe it's got
Yeah.
oil on it or something, and invariably they're going to make a mess. They're going to get it all over the place.
Now the best one is when someone bring a tray of glasses of drinks, and then
Yeah.
someone grab the drink. And what people don't understand, I don't know if you've ever carried a tray of drinks, but for a while I was a cocktail waiter. So I work in a bar just on the cocktail part, which is really difficult.
Did you have to wear a little mini skirt?
Yeah, right. But no, I was a cocktail waiter, and it's pretty hard because sometimes you have to carry the tray with all the drinks, right? So
Right.
you have your thumb on the tray, and you have to carry the drink, and then you get to your table. So either you hold perfectly and you grab your drink, or you already have your hand and grab your drink, but you don't grab from the side, right?
Right.
You grab from the middle and you grab from around. You don't grab all from one side.
Yeah, it's
And you
all
carry.
about even distribution of weight, and
So when you're here and then people grab something, it goes. Oh my God, what a
it's the
catastrophe!
worst thing you can do. And the best thing you can do as a customer when the server comes to your table to put down drinks or plates is to just sit back and stay out of the way.
Yeah,
That's
right.
the other thing, that at Cesar people do this all the time, where especially guys, they'll be leaning on the table like this with their arms on the table, and I come out and I got plates or drinks or something, and they don't move. They just
Yeah,
look at
no.
me like, "Oh, you brought the fried potatoes or something," and I'm looking at them like, you got to move. Your table's not very big, and you're taking up half of it with your arms.
But a lot of time, what you don't understand, people, is it's done in not a mean way or a bad way. It's just like you're absorbed into whatever, right? So that's why we're talking about it. It's fun. It's not like
Yeah,
we're not going to change people's. Not everybody pays attention, and not everybody is aware. You know what I mean? It's like some people they're in the world, and They don't get it, right? It's not bad or good.
Right.
It's just the way it is. So as a waiter, you cannot take things personally, because you don't know what's going on with people's, head. They might be for a drink, they had the table, whatever, right? And so you can't assume anything. You just have to be really a waiter. A good waiter will really adapt. It's like a chameleon, right?
Right. Right.
You really have to adapt and be cool. And that's what they come to see you. They come to see you because you're open. There's ambiance. There's other peers. That's what they come here. So they don't want to be, aggressed.
The
So
other
if you can,
thing, the other thing that people do sometimes is they come into the restaurant, they sit down at their table, and they immediately unload all of their personal possessions onto
oh
the
my God,
table. So
that's
they've
crazy.
got a huge cell phone, their sunglasses,
Yeah.
their keys, their wallet sometimes. So you come out with stuff, and there's nowhere to put anything. And normally, if
Well, small table. Remember,
yeah,
we work with small table.
and if I have something in my hand, I mean, I'm not above, moving things on their table to make room. But sometimes you got both hands full. I can't move your stuff. And they
Right.
just sometimes some people get it immediately. They
Yeah.
start grabbing, and other people just sit there, especially really young people. They just sit there and they don't get that. Okay, I'm just going to put this plate on your phone because there's no other place to put it.
Well, also what's happening right now. People have not been out for 2 years,
Yeah.
so we have to retrain. Not retrain, but you have to. People are a little bit awkward, and some people are really they want to be nice, right? They want to help, and that's what you were saying earlier. Please
Hmm.
don't don't
Yeah.
don't help. Let us do the thing.
Another thing that they pointed out in this article that I see happen a lot is they people sit down at their table and they're ready to order, and their server's not there, or their server's been there but they want to add something else, and they'll
Right.
just flag down whoever comes by, and they'll order something from them. And at Cesar, we all do everything. So
Right.
if I'm working up front and somebody in the back needs something, I don't care. I'll stop, take their order, put it in. It's no big deal. But a lot of times in a restaurant, you're really screwing up the
Right.
the flow,
But
and
James,
your waiter's not ignoring you. Your waiter's just serving somebody else, and will be there momentarily. And if you ask somebody else, now you're pulling them out of their flow, and they've got a table that's not getting, so you just have to
yeah, but
let.
this is something you can't, you can't expect people to understand the restaurant business. So this is always going to happen. There's nothing, the restaurant has to figure out how to be able to convey another order from another table. I think it's super important because it will happen, and I
Yeah.
don't think that's, it's like, yeah, some people they get very impatient. They want to order right away. Whatever, it's like you can if you take the order, you need to be able to place
Well,
that
and the
order.
and the
And,
worst thing is the worst thing a server can say to a person in a restaurant is, "I'm sorry, this is not my section."
right, I
Because you
cannot.
know what?
Yeah.
They don't care if it's they want another martini, or they want to order some extra fries. Just
Plus, it's
just take
very
the
easy,
order. Just go
James.
put it in.
James, with the computer today, it's super easy.
It's super easy. Yeah.
Okay, like
But there is one thing that people do that is kind of annoying. They'll
kind
they'll order a glass of
of,
wine. They'll order a glass of wine or whatever, and
and
it's
with
not there in 30 seconds, and they
oh yeah,
still don't have it. So they'll flag down the nearest person, and they'll say, "I need a glass of Chardonnay." So that person will go, "Okay, fine." And so they go order it. Well, their
well,
server's already ordered it. It's just not out
yeah,
yet. So pretty soon somebody's bringing them a glass of wine and looking down, and they've already got their order. And so, and the bartenders are busy. Now they've made a drink that they didn't need to make,
wait.
and they took the time to make it. And if
So
it's a
this,
glass of wine or something, it's no big deal. You put it aside, you cover it, but
James,
sometimes it's a cocktail, and you've just now made a cocktail. Now it's wasted,
you're talking
and
about
I had to spend the time doing it.
James, you're talking about the Friday night crowd.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
let's talk about that for a minute. That's fun because we have per day. You understand the clientele is different, and for us, we're used to our clientele. And I tell you, the Friday night clientele is pretty crazy, right? Oh, this is my cousin Martin. Martin, bonjour. Ça
Martine,
va?
bonjour.
James, you have to speak French louder.
Bonjour, Martine.
Buongiorno. Ah, ça va, ben dis donc, super.
If I speak English really loud, will she understand?
If you, yeah, loud is the key to be
Yeah.
understood. Bonjour. All right, that. So she's French, but she can't spell. She has a hard time with the writing part of the French. So Friday
Yeah.
night people, what is wrong with the Friday night people? Well, from my experience, Friday night you had a crazy week, and you're ready to drink. And you can see when I was working at César on Friday night, by 6 o'clock, you could see people like they need a drink, right? And there's people they're like they
Yeah.
have to have a drink. Saturday night, little bit. Little bit better, right? Saturday night, a little bit better because I think
Cuckoo
maybe they've
guy.
been out. Jennifer, how are you? Many crazy. Yeah, right. Oh my God, I know.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
what do you do then? And you don't want to be rude, right? And that's the thing. And so Jennifer, it's a good point because you see, I worked in a restaurant in LA for a while where there was one waiter that was really terrible, right?
Uh-huh.
And just that reminded me Jennifer's point because I had to pick up the slack of that person
Yeah, that's bad.
because it was so bad. He was always smoking in the back with cigarettes, huh? And then I had to pick up his slack, and so I got him fired anyway. That was good, but that's terrible. So all good waiters in the restaurant, you don't have that. That doesn't happen, right? But if you have a
Right.
slacker, then that guy needs to go because the other people are gonna have to pick up that exactly that.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
interesting. So let's go back to our Friday night. The Friday night crowd is, in my opinion, the worst. But I don't want to be like pessimistic, negative. But
Well,
Friday night
we have
is
two
a hard one.
yeah, we have two different things going on Friday night. We have our Friday night regulars, a group of regulars that come in.
Yeah, at
Some of
five.
them come in every night and some of them just sort of come in on Fridays, but they all know each other. Those people are great. I mean, they kind of expect to be treated special, and we try to treat them special
Yeah,
because we
right.
appreciate them. We know them. We know all their names. I mean, they're great people. So there's them. Then there's other people that we don't necessarily know who come in, and they just, like you say, they just are desperate for a drink and they want to be served now. And it gets a little crazy. We always have a waiting list on Friday night. There's always a crowd waiting to be seated.
That's funny. Show more pictures of my
Yeah.
marble so I can copy them. The answer is no. But thank you for asking. Yeah, no, I remember the Friday night at César. So we're talking about César because that's where I worked the last part. Before that was long ago. But on Friday night at César, it was so crazy that when we started to work, we got completely slammed at 5:30, right?
Yeah.
And then at 11:30 p.m., you just realizing it's 11:30. It's
Yeah.
crazy. No bathroom, nothing. I mean, really, I was talking to right? Because when Bill and I was working behind the bar on Friday or with Kathleen, there was no bathroom. I mean, you can't even take a minute. It's crazy stuff. We used to serve how many? We have to get those numbers again. Remember those numbers of margarita we used to sell every night?
Yeah.
What was like crazy stuff?
I
Okay,
think I have it right here.
that it was like completely incredible amount. I
Yeah.
know because the lime juice we used to make is completely gone by the end of the night. All the mint, all the and when the mojito started, oh my God, that was everybody wanted mojitos. I started mojito. Okay, bonne nuit. Go to bed now. Yeah, that's a good one.
Bon nuit. The
She's in
number of
France.
margaritas
She-
made,
She's in
13,000. And this was in 2003. And we did the Cesar Index. So number of mojitos made, 23,000. That was a big drink in those days. God,
well,
there were nights when I made 50 mojitos.
I started the mojitos, right?
Did you?
I started the caipirinha because in my bar in Paris, it was pretty hot at the time. That was not even there. They didn't even know about this.
Hmm.
And then we started the mojito, and it was such a oh,
Yeah.
because it takes forever, right? You have to bring all your glasses. So let's say you have like 20 mojitos to make, make 6 by 6. You have all your glasses, you put your mint, you have to one by one lime, the
Right.
sugar, mint, then you put your rum, then you put your ice. And a lot of time when we did the caipirinha, we had to have crushed ice, right?
Right. We still
I had a
do.
machine to crush
Yeah,
the ice by hand.
the caipirinhas take a long time because you muddle the sugar and the limes in a rocks glass, and then you have to grind the
The ice,
ice, and you build the drink. It's a wonderful drink, and it's not bad to do when you're not busy. But when you're crazy busy and you get a table of people
right?
that start ordering caipirinhas and they order them all night long, oh my
And that's the
God, it's
thing. If you have 4 people, they're gonna drink at least 12.
and you don't
Let's
say
make
no. You
12.
don't say
No,
no. I'm too busy to
of course
make a caipirinha. You just make
So
caipirinhas, and
let's
you just
let's tell people what's in caipirinha.
a caipirinha is the way we make them is I put a few sugar cubes in the glass. I cut up a lime into little wedges, so about maybe 3/4 of the lime goes in the glass, and then you muddle that. So you're squeezing all the juice out and mixing it with the sugar, and you make like this paste in the bottom of the glass, this nice sugary, citrusy mix, and then it's 2 ounces of
Cachaça.
cachaça, which is a Brazilian rum. It's an unaged
It's a
rum.
it's made of grapes. It's a
Right.
it's a it's a it's a I don't know if it's a rum really. It's a type
Yeah,
of
I guess it's really more of a
it's a grape alcohol, and it's pretty strong. I
and
mean,
it's unique to Brazil. That's where they make
right,
it.
right,
And
right.
so then you do that, and then we have a little hand cranked ice grinder that grinds up the ice so it's like a
From the
crushed
50s.
ice, like a snow
It's from
cone.
the 50s.
And then you put that in the glass, so you've got this little mound of crushed
Right,
ice.
beautiful.
You stick a straw in, and
Yeah.
it's a delicious drink. It's very sweet, and I used
Well,
to
no,
make them
no,
less
but
sweet
it
until the
should not be
Brazilians
sweet.
came to me and said, "No, no, you're not making it sweet enough."
Well, it depends. You can't make it too sweet because it's really bad for your liver. And when I drink it in Brazil, they don't always make it sweet.
Well, I learned to make them from these Brazilians in New York City, and they were always
Yeah,
telling me, "No, more sugar, more sugar."
that's because they like sugar. But
Yeah,
otherwise, sugar is actually terrible in a drink.
yeah,
You want 1 teaspoon or two, and then you want quarter lime or a half a lime. The more lime you put in that drink, the better it is for you because your liver gets a lot of antioxidant, vitamin C, and it
hmm,
actually combat the um, toxicity.
right.
It makes your liver kind of react better. So lime, lemon is very important when you drink, and that's why a little lemon or little lime is extremely important.
I mean,
Extremely
when you think
important.
about it, a caipirinha is really not that different than a margarita. You in a
Right.
margarita, you've got lime. The Cointreau is there
Yeah.
instead of the sugar, but the
Exactly.
Cointreau is a sweet
Yeah.
liqueur, an
All base.
orange based liqueur, and then tequila. So it's that same idea. You got the sour, you got the sweet, and you got the alcohol, and
You
it's a
get alcohol
classic.
and you get lime or lemon. You need to stick with that. This is the most vitamin C you can get. So I'm not sure that's how they figure it out, but it's a really good way to drink alcohol. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it was well
Yeah,
thought of. Like mojito has mint also, which is also a really good antioxidant, has
right.
nutrients, vitamins, and this is what the way I think about it. Not that I don't think they were built that way, but look at traditional food. Traditional food is good for you the way we used to eat. We eat in France, we eat steak. We're gonna put the steak, we put butter on it, cold butter. So because that's better, a good meat has to have fat. And now people are going to completely like remove themselves away from real food and go into all, whatever processed stuff in there.
Yeah.
So this is always the idea. What
Well, and
people are doing,
a lot of these things came about because they had the ingredients. Like in Cuba, where the daiquiri comes from, well, what did they have easily at their disposal? They had rum, they had sugar, and they had
yeah,
lime. So they
yeah,
put them together and made a
right.
daiquiri. And the same is true with a mojito, which also comes originally from Cuba. Um, they would have had mint and lime and sugar and rum, and you put it together in a refreshing drink. Um, But it's also these three combinations, some sort of sweet element, a citrus tart element,
Right,
and
right.
the liquor is
Yeah,
a classic combination that
yeah,
you see
right.
throughout the bar. I
Yeah.
mean, a sidecar is basically a brandy sour. Lemon drops, Cosmos, all these drinks are that basic formula. It's a sweetness, it's the tart citrusy component, and whatever the spirit base is. And it's
Lemon drops
that's
are
that's why
fun,
it's
huh?
funny when people invent new drinks.
I know.
And there have been so many drinks invented in the last 10, 20 years, probably
Right.
more than in the entire history of cocktails. And yet they're all derivative. There's really nothing new under the sun. It's just rearranging things.
Yeah, great.
Of course,
Jennifer,
now there are
exactly.
other flavorings, but is there a drink that has lime, ginger, and mint? Could use a higher
Not,
quality sweetener like vanilla or
not yet.
jaggery?
Not yet.
There is now. We're going to call it a Jennifer Rose.
There's a drink with ginger, right?
We
Moscow Mule, what is that? Moscow Mule,
the Moscow
Moscow
Mule,
Mule.
yeah,
That's
but it
ginger.
doesn't. But it doesn't have mint. And we use a ginger syrup at work. It's a sort of an artisanally made ginger syrup, because obviously to use just raw ginger is difficult at the bar. But this ginger syrup is great. We make our ginger ale with it,
Oh, I have that. I have some here.
but it's also great in drinks. We use it in a Moscow Mule. We use it in our Rude Boy cocktail. We use it in
But
a
yeah,
number of things. Rose
uh,
syrup would be good too in a drink. That would be lovely in certain drinks.
I don't think
Um,
there is rose syrup. I've never seen rose syrup. I've seen rose water.
there's
I
rose
don't think
water.
I don't
You
think I've
could
seen
make a
rose
you could
syrup.
make a syrup out of it.
Well, you have a syrup on one hand.
But I really, people. That's a funny thing, and that reminds me. People often ask, "Well, which cocktails are sweet? Is this
Yeah, right,
cocktail
right.
really sweet?" And
Yeah.
my answer is always the same: is that we try to make our drinks really well balanced. So
Yeah,
none
right,
of the
exactly.
drinks are
Right,
super sweet.
right.
I mean, there's a couple that are maybe a tad sweeter than I like, but we try to make them balanced. Your goal as a bartender is to balance out
It's
the
like
flavors so that nothing is
right.
attacking you.
You know, a lot of time. So not anymore right now. But when the cocktail started to be, more everywhere, like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, people really, really care about cocktails. You could see the executive chef working with the bartender a lot of time
Hmm.
because they have that, flavor thing. And a lot of time, in my experience, I had to work with the not I had to. It was a pleasure to work with the executive chef because they have also something to offer. Sometimes they're
Sure.
wrong, but you have to understand that the cocktail also has to go with the food.
Right. Right.
So and it was great to have the chef being interested. Sometimes they can be bitchy. Chefs can be bitchy, and that's when you need to know how to talk to them. That's another discussion, right?
Right.
But sometimes it's great to have their input because they make the food. They have this thing that they've done all their life, and they have a good way of pairing stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, you notice on television, on these cooking shows, cooking competition shows, and other things, you notice that more and more chefs are including a cocktail with whatever they're cooking.
I know, right,
And some of them are silly, but
right.
most of the chefs I know like to drink cocktails. In fact, in New York, there are sort of after hour bars that chefs go to, chefs, cooks, everybody from the kitchen. And when they go out, they don't want to drink wine. They want to drink cocktails. They want, and so they enjoy cocktails and they like coming up with flavorings, and they can do things in the kitchen that we can't do at the bar.
Because
Um,
it's a creation. I know my son Archie. He's a super bartender. He makes beautiful cocktails. He's come out with a few of the cocktails. He works with in really really cool places in San Francisco, and he works with the chef often because they
yeah,
have this thing. And also the chef maybe in the kitchen they can do their some of the preparation like either a syrup or a bitter or something that could be done in advance from not from the chef but from the kitchen. Sometimes they'll
right.
take on that job, right?
Well, we
It
do
all
that at
depends,
Cesar.
right?
Cameron, he was a chef before he was, working in the front of the house.
Okay.
So he goes into the kitchen and he makes all these concoctions for our drinks. he makes a citrus cordial that we use in the Deschler cocktail, and he makes these hibiscus mixtures for the Sangrado margarita,
Oh yeah.
and it's great because there's a lot of ingredients, so you don't want to have to do all that at the bar. Rather, he's got it all pre-mixed, and you can just put a shot into the
Yeah.
drink. And
So that's one thing we did at Cesar. We had a lot of the prep done in advance
mhm,
because there's no room to prep for us.
right.
So either at the bar or the kitchen. So everything is to be really
Well,
well
and
prepped.
they make all our simple syrup. They do two simple
Right.
syrups. They
So
do
the
a
simple
plain
syrup,
simple syrup and a mint simple syrup.
and so you understand how it's made. The kitchen has to make a perfect syrup, and then the bartender, the opening bartender has to try all this. Because I remember when I used to do the prep of the bar, I'd come in the morning, I'd make the mix, and you have to make the mix. You have to try it because sometimes the limes are very bit
Right.
acidic, and sometimes the limes are very sweet. So when we make our mix, I have to make it perfect. So I have to add either some sugar or no sugar at all, or tell the bartender that it's very acidic. Make sure you add so the cocktail are consistent. But
Yeah.
every day the mix was different. And I remember I was talking to something about that when we did our Bloody Mary mix, which we stopped doing pretty fast. We did a really good Bloody Mary mix at Cesar. It was really amazing. It was made with fresh tomatoes, which was a big problem because uh, the flavor were different all the time.
Yeah.
When people were complaining, it was really good, but and then we
Yeah.
stopped doing the Bloody Mary altogether because it was so complicated.
Yeah. When I come in, usually when I start as a bartender, I like to taste all the tequilas to make sure they're well balanced.
They were balanced in your stomach, right? Up,
Yes.
up to the right, to the right, to the left, to the left.
Right. Right.
James, we have a few minutes left, so
Well, we didn't make it to all our subjects today, but that's okay. We
we have
don't
two
have any
subjects
set
covered.
agenda.
We're gonna
I do have some other things I want to talk about next week. We're going to talk about bugs, and
and food, bugs in your stomach,
bugs
like
in your stomach.
eating bugs, right?
Yeah, it is an interesting subject. A lot of people are very squeamish, but it's interesting. The last Winter Fancy Food Show I attended, which was the the one right before the whole COVID thing hit, there must have been there were 3 or 4 companies that were specializing in cricket uh,
Yeah,
ingredients, and I tried them all. They were all good. Some were better than
nice
others.
for
Some
the
were kind of bland. Some were really good. Um,
Chef, I
so
had
so good to have you with us,
yeah,
Jennifer. Thank you.
good to see you, Jennifer, a long time. And
So
and Fode is still on the out on the sea. Yeah, are you still Fode? Are you still on your what is it platform? The no the
no, they sent him adrift. They fired him and they just put him in a rowboat with a jug of water and sent him off like Captain Bligh. Just send him off into the.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you better make sure you always do a good job, Frode, because if they fire you out there, that's what they do. They
He's
just
home.
set you
So
adrift, and oh, he's at home now, so he's
Fode
in
is my
Norway.
ex-chef. He used to work in what is that called? Platform? How do you call those?
An oil rig. It's
Oil rig, oil rig.
yeah, out at sea. Yeah, that
Cool.
must be incredible. That would be so fun to
Fode,
be able to.
if you have pictures, 28 days of dirty. I know that's crazy. When you have pictures,
Oh
can you
wow,
can
that's
you
great.
let's have him maybe next week or the week after for day. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's have you on the guest. I want to see some pictures of that
It's kind of like being a
platform.
fireman. How they go in and they live at the firehouse for several days, and then they have several days off. It's kind of cool. But he does long shifts out there. Do you think he goes out there for like a month at a time or something and cooks 3 meals a day? 3 meals a day.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, people. Well, good to see you, everyone.
Yes.
See you next week, and we will keep going until we have our guest.
Yes,
We'll
and
have guests
we
in
are
about
going to
a couple
get
of
we
weeks.
are going to start having guests. We keep saying that, but we promise we're not lying to you. We're going to do it. We're trying to get settled here and set up
Yeah,
some people, and
the truth is everybody was invited has refused. That's why we don't have guests.
I think it's me.
2 weeks. Okay, great. In 2 weeks we'll have 4 day, and he's going to collect some pictures of what he
I
does.
think he meant 2 weeks. He's on the rig for 2 weeks at a time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's incredible.
All
I
right.
would love it would be so cool to go and visit him on the rig. They probably don't really want visitors out there because it's small enough quarters as it is, but it would be really cool to see how that all works.
Right, right.
Yeah, 2 weeks
Okay.
on duty, right?
Well,
Yeah.
last time he took some great picture. We can put them
Yeah.
on again.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks
Guys,
everyone for joining us. Thanks for our people that chimed in. Jennifer, Frode, always great to hear from you. And we'll be back next week.
and
It's not a
Lisa.
threat,
Lisa
it's
was
a
the person.
promise.
And Martin. Yeah.
And Martine, yeah, right, right.
And Lisa.
Merci. Merci, Martine.
Allez. Ciao, big guys. See
Okay.
you.
See you next